Some science fiction movies blast into the spotlight, while others quietly drift into the shadows, unfairly overlooked despite their brilliance. Why do some of the most imaginative films end up forgotten, while weaker blockbusters get all the glory? From dazzling dystopias to cerebral time-bending tales, these are the sci-fi gems that deserved far more love. How many of these have you seen or missed without even realizing it? Let's find out. Dark City, 1998. Imagine waking up in a city where the sun never rises. Strangers control reality, and even your memories might not belong to you. That's the terrifying setup of Dark City, a neo-noir masterpiece that slipped through the cracks in the late 90s. Overshadowed by The Matrix, which hit theaters a year later with a similar reality-bending premise, Dark City carved its own lane with jaw-dropping production design and haunting atmosphere. Director Alex Proyas created a world that feels like it crawled out of a German expressionist nightmare. Retro skyscrapers twisting into the sky, shadowy alleys drenched in perpetual night, and a sinister group of pale, telekinetic beings known only as the Strangers. Rufus Sewell plays John Murdoch, a man accused of murder while piecing together the chilling truth that memories can be swapped like playing cards. The film bombed at the box office but slowly built a cult following. Critics eventually hailed it as one of the boldest blends of noir and sci-fi ever made. It asks unsettling questions. What makes you, if your memories can be manufactured? Dark City might not have earned the hype it deserved, but it remains a striking reminder that atmosphere can be just as powerful as action. Gattaca, 1997. In a future where your DNA dictates your destiny, Gattaca dared to imagine a world where perfection was enforced by science. Starring Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman, the film depicts a society obsessed with genetic purity, where people born naturally are treated as inferior. Vincent Freeman, played by Hawke, refuses to accept this fate. Pretending to be genetically superior, he schemes his way into a space program that was never supposed to accept him. Director Andrew Niccol infused the movie with a cool, retro-futuristic style, sleek architecture, minimalist set designs, and a sterile atmosphere that feels both alluring and suffocating. It's a chilling look at discrimination engineered not by race or wealth, but by strands of DNA. Despite its incredible ideas, Gattaca struggled at the box office, dismissed by many as too slow or cerebral compared to the flashy sci-fi of the late 90s. Yet over time, it gained recognition as one of the smartest, most stylish dystopias ever filmed. It was even nominated for an Academy Award in art direction. More than 20 years later, the film feels eerily relevant as we debate gene editing, designer babies, and the ethics of biotechnology. Gattaca wasn't appreciated in its time, but it may just have predicted ours. Strange Days, 1995. What if you could plug into someone else's memories and experience their life firsthand? That's the provocative premise of Strange Days, a cyberpunk thriller from director Catherine Bigelow. Released in 1995 and co-written by James Cameron, the movie imagined a near-future Los Angeles where people trade in playback experiences recorded straight from the brain. Ralph Fiennes plays Lenny Nero, a sleazy hustler who deals in these memory recordings. Things spiral when he stumbles upon evidence of a brutal crime hidden inside one of the tapes. What follows is part noir detective story, part social commentary, and part adrenaline-fueled action. Bigelow captures the city in a feverish state, with Y2K paranoia, corruption, and chaos boiling over. Audiences didn't bite. The film tanked financially, and critics were divided, calling it messy or too dark. But over time, Strange Days has been re-evaluated as an overlooked gem. Its handheld POV sequences of living another person's experiences still feel groundbreaking. And thematically, it wrestles with surveillance, voyeurism, and the addictive lure of technology, issues that have only grown sharper today. Strange Days may not have been a hit, but it's a visionary film that looked further ahead than most dared to. Silent Running, 1972. Before eco-awareness became a buzzword, Silent Running planted the seed. Directed by Douglas Trumbull, who worked on 2001, A Space Odyssey. This 1972 film imagined a grim future where Earth's forests have been wiped out. The last remaining plant life floats in massive space domes near Saturn. When the crew is ordered to destroy the domes, botanist Freeman Lowell refuses. He defies orders, kills his crewmates, and dedicates himself to preserving what little nature remains. Bruce Dern gives a raw, passionate performance as Lowell, a man clinging to hope in the middle of isolation. His companions? Three endearing robot drones, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, who bring warmth and tragedy to the story. The movie wasn't a big hit when it premiered, but it inspired generations of filmmakers. Its environmental message still resonates today, and its practical effects and model work give the film a timeless quality. Unlike many action-packed sci-fi blockbusters, Silent Running is meditative, emotional, and quietly devastating. It's not about blowing up aliens or saving galaxies. It's about the heartbreaking fragility of nature and the stubborn human drive to protect it. Silent Running may not be as well known as Star Wars, but its legacy runs deep. THX 1138 1971. Before George Lucas created lightsabers and Jedi, he made a bleak clinical dystopia called THX 1138. Set in a future where citizens are drugged into submission and controlled by robotic enforcers, the film follows THX, played by Robert Duvall, as he begins to resist the system. Stripped of individuality, emotion, and freedom, THX's awakening is both terrifying and hypnotic to watch. The movie is a visual experiment: white sterile corridors, oppressive sound design, and minimalist aesthetics that feel more like modern art than mainstream cinema. While critics praised its daring style, audiences didn't connect. It flopped, and Lucas quickly pivoted toward more crowd-pleasing adventures in a galaxy far, far away. But looking back, THX 1138 was way ahead of its time. Its themes of state control, conformity, and the numbing effect of technology feel just as chilling in today's surveillance-heavy world. The film also showed early flashes of Lucas's genius for world-building, even within such a stripped-down setting. It may not have lightsabers or space battles, but THX 1138 is essential viewing for anyone who wants to see where one of cinema's greatest storytellers first took a bold leap into the future. The Andromeda Strain 1971. Long before viral outbreaks became headline news, the Andromeda Strain took the fear of unstoppable infection into the realm of science fiction. Based on Michael Crichton's novel, the story begins with a U.S. satellite crash landing in New Mexico, carrying with it a deadly extraterrestrial microorganism. Scientists rush to contain it inside an underground lab, battling not just the alien virus but also their own human errors. Director Robert Wise presents the film with a clinical precision that feels almost documentary-like. The sets are sleek, sterile, and claustrophobic, reinforcing the paranoia of being trapped with something invisible and lethal. The narrative unfolds in a slow-burn fashion, building dread through procedures, alarms, and system breakdowns rather than traditional monsters or explosions. When it premiered, audiences found it cold and overly technical. Yet over time, the Andromeda Strain gained respect as one of the smartest, most scientifically grounded thrillers of its era. It paved the way for more grounded, science-first sci-fi, influencing everything from Outbreak to Contagion. In a genre often defined by space battles and laser guns, this movie made the microscopic feel terrifying. Underrated? Absolutely. It's proof that sometimes the scariest enemies are the ones you can't even see. Altered States 1980. What happens when science meets obsession and the human mind becomes the laboratory? Altered States answers that with a psychedelic punch. Directed by Ken Russell and based on a novel by Paddy Chayefsky, the film follows a Harvard scientist experimenting with sensory deprivation and hallucinogens. His research spirals into a terrifying journey as he literally regresses to a primal, almost inhuman state. The visuals are wild, swirling dreamscapes, grotesque transformations, and surreal montages that feel more like nightmares than cinema. William Hurt, in his film debut, delivers an intense performance as the unhinged scientist, a man so determined to push the limits of human consciousness that he loses grip on reality. Critics were divided at the time. Some hailed it as visionary, others dismissed it as pretentious. The public didn't quite know what to make of it, but decades later, Altered States is recognized as a bold exploration of identity, evolution, and the dangers of pushing science too far. It's not a popcorn sci-fi flick, it's a mind-melting sensory assault that dares you to question what it means to be human. For those brave enough to dive in, it's a trip you'll never forget. The Abyss, 1989. James Cameron gave us Aliens and Terminator, but one of his most daring experiments remains overlooked. The Abyss. Set deep beneath the ocean, The story follows a team of divers who stumble upon mysterious otherworldly beings while trying to recover a sunken submarine. The mix of Cold War tension, underwater claustrophobia, and breathtaking special effects made it unlike anything else at the time. The film is famous for its pioneering use of CGI. The shimmering water-like alien face was groundbreaking in 1989, paving the way for effects in Terminator 2. But beneath the spectacle lies a story about human fragility, love, and the terrifying vastness of the unknown. Despite critical praise, The Abyss struggled financially, partly due to its troubled production and massive budget. Some viewers found it too slow compared to Cameron's other action-heavy hits, but fans who revisit it today often call it his most ambitious work, balancing hard-edged realism with moments of wonder. The ocean remains one of the least explored frontiers, and The Abyss reminds us why. What lies in the deep might be beautiful, terrifying, or both. Trancers, 1984. Sometimes underrated doesn't mean high art, it means a low-budget gem that punches above its weight. Enter Trancers, a cult sci-fi classic from Empire Pictures, starring Tim Thomerson as a time-traveling cop named Jack Death. The movie blends detective noir with futuristic dystopia. His mission? Hunt down criminals who can control the minds of ordinary people, turning them into zombie-like Trancers. With its gritty Los Angeles backdrop and pulpy dialogue, Trancers feels like a bargain bin mashup of Blade Runner and the Terminator. But that's exactly what makes it fun. Thomerson's tough guy performance anchors the wild premise, while a young Helen Hunt steals scenes as his unlikely partner. Critics ignored it, and the tiny budget kept it off mainstream radar. Yet over the years, Trancers built a loyal cult following. It even spawned several sequels, each expanding its scrappy little sci-fi world. Is it groundbreaking cinema? Number. But it's proof that creativity can thrive on limited means. If you love gritty 80s sci-fi with heart, Trancers deserves a spot on your watch list. Cloverfield 2008. When Cloverfield hit theaters, it wasn't just another monster movie, it was an event. Marketed with mystery and secrecy, the film dropped audiences into a handheld first-person nightmare as a gigantic creature ravaged New York City. For some, the shaky camera was disorienting. For others, it was a game-changer. Director Matt Reeves and producer J.J. Abrams took a simple premise. What if Godzilla attacked, but told through a home video, and turned it into an immersive experience? By focusing on ordinary people instead of soldiers or scientists, the movie made the chaos feel terrifyingly real. At the box office, Cloverfield did well, but critics were split. Some dismissed it as a gimmick, others praised it as innovative. Over time, it's been overshadowed by its own sequels and imitators. Yet, revisiting it today, the raw intensity still holds up. It wasn't just about the monster, it was about how fragile our world feels when everything collapses in an instant. Cloverfield may not have aged into blockbuster glory, but it remains one of the boldest creature features of the 21st century. The Signal, 2014. Indie sci-fi often gets buried under big studio releases, and The Signal is a perfect example. Directed by William Eubank, the film begins as a road trip thriller before morphing into something far stranger. 3 college students track a mysterious hacker to a remote desert shack, only to wake up in a sterile facility after a blinding encounter. What follows is a slow unraveling of paranoia, alien influence, and government control. Lawrence Fishburne plays a cryptic authority figure who may or may not have answers, while Brenton Thwaites delivers a surprisingly emotional lead performance. Audiences expecting a straightforward alien invasion flick were confused, and critics complained about its ambiguous ending. But those who stuck with it discovered a visually stunning, thought-provoking story about control, freedom, and the unknown. The film's low budget is hidden beneath sharp cinematography and striking imagery, including jaw-dropping final reveals. It may not have the polish of Hollywood blockbusters, but The Signal is a reminder that sci-fi doesn't need a massive budget to make your jaw drop. Coherence, 2013. What if Dinner with Friends suddenly turned into a quantum nightmare? Coherence takes that premise and spins it into one of the most mind-bending indie sci-fi films ever made. Shot on a shoestring budget in just 5 days, the movie follows a group of friends whose evening spirals into chaos when a comet passes overhead. Suddenly, their reality fractures into multiple versions of themselves. The brilliance of Coherence lies in its simplicity. There are no flashy effects, just sharp dialogue, raw performances, and a story that escalates with every scene. The overlapping timelines and doppelganger encounters create an atmosphere of unease that rivals films with 10 times the budget. When it premiered, many overlooked it in favor of bigger, flashier sci-fi. But word of mouth helped it gain cult status among fans who love cerebral puzzles. It's been praised as one of the most accurate portrayals of quantum mechanics ever put on screen, without drowning viewers. In technobabble, Coherence proves that great science fiction isn't about spectacle, it's about ideas. And sometimes, the most terrifying universe is the one where you can't even trust yourself. The Endless 2017. Sometimes underrated movies come from filmmakers who refuse to play by Hollywood's rules. The Endless, directed by Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, is exactly that. The duo not only wrote and directed, but also starred in this eerie, low-budget masterpiece. The story follows two brothers returning to a UFO death cult they escaped years earlier. Instead of closure, they discover the camp is caught in bizarre time loops controlled by an unseen force. What makes The Endless special is its atmosphere. Using minimal effects and maximum creativity, the film crafts a sense of dread that lingers long after it ends. Its slow burn pacing draws you into a world where reality bends and escape may be impossible. Critics praised its originality, but mainstream audiences barely noticed. Yet among genre fans, it's considered a modern cult classic. The movie's power lies in how it combines cosmic horror with intimate storytelling. It's about family, identity, and the haunting idea that some cycles are impossible to break. If you want indie sci-fi that truly sticks in your brain, The Endless delivers. Southland Tales 2006. Richard Kelly followed his cult hit Donnie Darko with a sprawling apocalyptic satire called Southland Tales. The result? A film too weird for mainstream audiences and too ambitious to be ignored. Set in a dystopian near-future Los Angeles, it mashes together politics, celebrity culture, surveillance, and time travel, all filtered through Kelly's surreal lens. The cast is wild: Dwayne Johnson, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Justin Timberlake, and more. The tone shifts from dead serious to absurd comedy in a heartbeat. Critics at Cannes tore it apart, calling it incoherent. Audiences didn't flock to it either, but over time, Southland Tales has earned cult admiration for its boldness. Yes, it's messy. Yes, it's overloaded with ideas, but that's exactly why it deserves attention. Beneath the chaos lies a biting critique of a society obsessed with spectacle and paranoia. If Donnie Darko was Kelly's precise, haunting masterpiece, Southland Tales was his chaotic, sprawling experiment. And like all underrated sci-fi, it asked more than audiences were ready to answer. The 13th Floor, 1999. The same year The Matrix redefined sci-fi, another virtual reality thriller quietly slipped under the radar. The 13th Floor tells the story of a computer scientist who discovers that his simulated reality might itself be inside another simulation. Sounds familiar? Yes, but it was released just weeks before The Matrix, ensuring it was overshadowed. Despite that, The 13th Floor is a stylish, thought-provoking gem. It combines 1930s noir with futuristic paranoia, weaving a mystery that keeps you guessing. The performances by Craig Bierko and Gretchen Mol may not have turned them into stars, but they anchor the film with surprising depth. Critics were lukewarm, calling it a knockoff. But revisiting it today, you see how ambitious it really was. The questions it raises about reality, identity, and free will are just as sharp as its more famous competitor. The 13th Floor might not have revolutionized cinema, but it proved that the simulation genre had more than one story to tell. For fans of philosophical sci-fi, this film deserves a second look. Equilibrium 2002. What if feeling anything, joy, anger, grief, was a crime? Equilibrium takes that chilling idea and cranks it up with some of the most stylish action sequences of the early 2000s. In a future where emotion is outlawed, citizens are forced to take daily injections that suppress all feelings. Step out of line, and you're executed. Christian Bale stars as John Preston, a top cleric who suddenly begins to feel again, and that awakening turns him against the very system he enforces. The film combines dystopian themes reminiscent of 1984 and Fahrenheit 451 with jaw-dropping action choreography. Its signature gun-kata fight style, an acrobatic blend of martial arts and firearms, became legendary among genre fans. Despite all this, the movie barely made a dent at the box office. Critics called it derivative, overshadowed by The Matrix. But for those who've seen it, Equilibrium offers more than just flashy moves. It's a story about reclaiming humanity in a world designed to strip it away. And in today's age of emotional disconnection and constant control, its message hits harder than ever. Underrated, absolutely. It's a dystopian gem that deserved far more recognition. Zardoz, 1974. Few movies earn the label, so bizarre it must be seen to be believed. Quite like Zardoz. Directed by John Boorman, this 70s oddity stars Sean Connery in a red costume that's become infamous. But beneath the strange visuals lies an ambitious slice of dystopian science fiction. Set in a future where humanity is divided between immortal elites and oppressed workers, the story follows Connery's character Zed, who challenges the godlike figure Zardoz. It's weird, trippy, and often mocked, but it also wrestles with ideas about class, mortality, and the meaning of progress. Audiences in 1974 didn't know what to make of it. Critics scoffed at the costumes and heavy symbolism, and the film quickly faded into cult obscurity. Yet over the years, many have come to appreciate its audacity. Few sci-fi films of the era were willing to be this experimental blending philosophy with surreal imagery. Yes, it's flawed. Yes, it's wild. But Zardoz is unforgettable. And if underrated means daring to swing for the fences while everyone else plays safe, this movie earns its spot on the list. Cyborg, 1989. When it comes to low-budget action sci-fi, Cyborg is a scrappy underdog that deserves more love. Starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, the film takes place in a post-apocalyptic wasteland ravaged by plague. A lone mercenary must escort a cyborg carrying vital information that could save humanity. It's part spaghetti western, part martial arts showcase, and part Mad Max knockoff, and it's a blast. The production was notoriously chaotic. It was originally meant to be a sequel to Masters of the Universe and Spider-Man. But when those projects collapsed, the sets and costumes were repurposed for Cyborg. Despite the behind-the-scenes mess, Van Damme's charisma carried the film. The fight scenes, raw, brutal, and packed with his signature kicks, kept audiences hooked. Critics panned it as cheesy and shallow, and it only made a modest box office return. But fans embraced it, turning Cyborg into a cult favorite. Its gritty aesthetic and pulpy tone have aged into something oddly charming. It may not have the polish of big studio hits, but it has something just as important: heart. Cyborg is the kind of underdog sci-fi movie that proves passion can outshine production problems. Starman, 1984. John Carpenter is often remembered for horror classics like Halloween and The Thing, but his gentle alien drama Starman deserves more recognition. Jeff Bridges stars as an extraterrestrial who takes on the form of a grieving widow's late husband. Together, they embark on a road trip across America, chased by government agents, while slowly forming a bond that transcends fear and misunderstanding. Bridges delivers one of the most unique performances of his career, playing the alien with both awkwardness and childlike wonder. Karen Allen, as the widow, brings warmth and vulnerability, making their connection deeply moving. Unlike Carpenter's darker works, Starman is hopeful, romantic, and surprisingly funny at times. Critics praised it, and Bridges even earned an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. Yet, audiences didn't flock to it, and it was overshadowed by flashier 80s sci-fi like Ghostbusters and The Terminator. Today, Starman stands out as one of the most heartfelt entries in the genre, a reminder that sci-fi doesn't always need explosions to pack an emotional punch. It's a road movie, a love story, and a meditation on empathy, all wrapped in Carpenter's deft direction. The Quiet Earth, 1985. Few sci-fi films capture loneliness like The Quiet Earth. This New Zealand-American co-production tells the story of a scientist who wakes up to find himself seemingly the last man alive. Empty streets, silent cities, and endless isolation form the eerie backdrop as he grapples with his sanity. But then, he discovers he's not entirely alone. Bruno Lawrence delivers a raw, haunting performance as a man both terrified and liberated by his solitude. The film doesn't rely on flashy effects. Instead, it focuses on the psychology of survival and the crushing weight of being the last voice on Earth. When it premiered, The Quiet Earth didn't make much noise internationally, overshadowed by bigger-budget apocalyptic stories. But those who stumbled upon it discovered a hidden gem, one that influenced later survival tales like I Am Legend. What makes it powerful is its mix of intimacy and cosmic scale. It's not just about survival. It's about identity, responsibility, and the fragile thread of human connection. If you've ever wondered how you'd handle waking up to a world without people, The Quiet Earth gives you both the dream and the nightmare. Event Horizon 1997. What happens when science fiction takes a wrong turn straight into horror? Event Horizon is the answer, and it's terrifying. Directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, the movie follows a rescue crew sent to investigate a spaceship that disappeared near Neptune and has suddenly reappeared. The twist? The ship has been to another dimension, and it brought something back. The atmosphere is pure dread. Stark hallways lit like a cathedral of nightmares, visions that drive crew members insane, and gore that lingers in your mind long after the credits roll. Lawrence Fishburne and Sam Neill lead the cast, balancing stoic command with absolute madness. When it came out, critics tore it apart for being too grim, and audiences stayed away. The studio cut nearly half an hour of footage, leaving fans to wonder what horrors were left unseen. But over time, Event Horizon built a cult following. Today, it's hailed as one of the best sci-fi horror hybrids ever made, blending alien-style tension with a touch of supernatural terror. This is not a feel-good space adventure, it's a descent into hell. And that's exactly why it deserves more recognition. Solaris 2002. Steven Soderbergh's Solaris remake is often dismissed as slow or overly cerebral, but that's what makes it underrated. Starring George Clooney, it tells the story of a psychologist sent to a space station orbiting the mysterious planet Solaris. There, he encounters manifestations of his late wife, created not by memory but by the planet itself. It's not about laser battles or explosions, it's about grief, memory, and the painful ways we hold on to the past. The station is quiet, eerie, almost dreamlike, reflecting the character's inner turmoil. Clooney's restrained performance, paired with Natasha McElhoney's haunting presence, turns the film into an emotional labyrinth. Compared to Andrei Tarkovsky's 1972 original, Soderbergh's version was dismissed as unnecessary. Audiences expected more spectacle, less meditation. But beneath its minimalist design lies a deeply human story. How far would you go to relive love, even if it's not real? Solaris didn't conquer the box office, but it deserves far more credit as a modern, soulful reimagining of a classic tale. It proves that science fiction can be just as much about the heart as it is about the stars. Enemy Mine, 1985. In a decade filled with flashy space operas, Enemy Mine went in a different direction. A survival story about two enemies who must become allies. Dennis Quaid plays a human pilot stranded on a hostile planet, while Louis Gossett Jr. plays a reptilian alien from a warring species. Initially at odds, the two characters are forced to rely on each other to survive. The film explores themes of prejudice, empathy, and survival in a way few sci-fi films dared at the time. The makeup effects for Gossett Jr.'s alien are stunning, and his performance, filled with dignity and humanity, earned widespread praise. But despite its heart and impressive visuals, Enemy Mine was a box office flop. Critics at the time thought it was too slow or sentimental compared to other action-packed sci-fi films. Today, it's recognized as a hidden gem of the genre. Its message of finding common ground across differences feels timeless. It may have been overlooked in 1985, but its legacy endures as one of the most heartfelt sci-fi stories ever put on screen. A Scanner Darkly, 2006. Richard Linklater is known for indie dramas, but with A Scanner Darkly, he turned Philip K. Dick's dystopian novel into a hallucinatory science fiction experiment. Using rotoscope animation, where live-action footage is traced over frame by frame, the film creates a surreal, shifting visual world that mirrors its story of paranoia and addiction. Keanu Reeves stars as an undercover agent losing his grip on reality, while Robert Downey Jr. and Woody Harrelson deliver manic, unforgettable supporting roles. The plot weaves together government surveillance, drug abuse, and identity collapse until both the viewer and the characters are questioning what's real. Audiences were divided. Some found the animation distracting. Others thought the pacing too slow. But for those willing to engage, the film is a darkly brilliant meditation on control, illusion, and the fragility of self. It's the kind of movie that sticks with you, not because it's flashy, but because it forces you to feel disoriented, just like its characters. A Scanner Darkly is sci-fi at its most unsettling, and it deserves far more recognition. Moon 2009. Sometimes all it takes is one actor, one set, and one unforgettable idea. Duncan Jones's Moon is a minimalist masterpiece. Sam Rockwell stars as Sam Bell, a worker nearing the end of a 3-year contract on a lunar mining station. His only company is a robot assistant voiced by Kevin Spacey, until he discovers a shocking secret about himself and his mission. The film is quiet, haunting, and deeply emotional. Rockwell carries nearly every frame, delivering a performance that swings from charming humor to heartbreaking despair. The set design is stripped down but atmospheric, evoking both isolation and claustrophobia. At release, Moon won critical acclaim but made little money. Without flashy effects or big-name stars, it slipped under most people's radar. But among sci-fi fans, it quickly became a cult favorite, one that proved you don't need a massive budget to deliver world-class storytelling. Moon asks big questions about identity, exploitation, and what it means to be human, and it does so with elegance and restraint. If you missed it the first time around, it's worth revisiting. Under the Skin 2013. Scarlett Johansson as an alien predator in Scotland, that's the setup for Jonathan Glazer's mesmerizing Under the Skin. But don't expect explosions or epic battles. This is eerie, atmospheric science fiction that crawls under your skin, literally. Johansson plays an alien disguised as a woman, luring men into surreal black voids where they're consumed by a mysterious force. Shot partly with hidden cameras, the film blurs the line between fiction and reality, capturing raw interactions between Johansson and unsuspecting bystanders. When it premiered, audiences were baffled. Some walked out, calling it boring or confusing, but critics who stuck with it praised its boldness, surreal imagery, and haunting score. Over time, it gained a cult reputation as one of the most daring sci-fi films of the century. What makes it underrated is not just that people missed it, it's that many didn't know how to interpret it. Is it about alienation? Gender? Predation? Humanity? The answer is all of the above. Under the Skin is unsettling, thought-provoking, and unforgettable. The Man Who Fell to Earth, 1976. David Bowie made his film debut in The Man Who Fell to Earth, and it remains one of the strangest, most captivating sci-fi films ever made. Bowie plays Thomas Jerome Newton, an alien who arrives on Earth seeking water for his dying planet. Instead, he becomes corrupted by greed, fame, and human excess. Director Nicholas Roeg crafted a fragmented, dreamlike narrative filled with surreal imagery. Bowie's performance, ethereal, fragile, otherworldly, made him seem like he truly was not of this Earth. The movie was too strange for mainstream audiences, and critics were split, but looking back, it's one of the most daring explorations of alienation, addiction, and the destructive nature of humanity. Bowie embodied the idea of an outsider perfectly, blurring the line between character and persona. Underrated at the time, it's now revered as a cult classic, though it still doesn't get the mainstream respect it deserves. It's not an easy watch, but it's a fascinating one. Sunshine 2007. What do you do when the sun is dying? In Danny Boyle's Sunshine, humanity sends a crew of astronauts to reignite it with a massive nuclear payload. The setup is classic sci-fi grandeur, but the execution is claustrophobic, intense, and beautiful. Cillian Murphy, Chris Evans, and Rose Byrne lead a stellar cast trapped in close quarters, facing both external danger and internal breakdowns. The visuals are breathtaking. The blinding light of the sun fills every frame with awe and menace. The score by John Murphy and Underworld is spine-tingling, one of the most memorable in modern sci-fi. Critics praised it, but audiences didn't show up in droves. Some complained about the final act's sudden shift toward horror, but others embraced it as a bold choice. Either way, Sunshine remains one of the most visually stunning and thematically rich sci-fi films of the 2000s. It deserved blockbuster recognition, but never got it. If you want science fiction that makes you feel both small and infinite, Sunshine is essential.